Right now we want to take you live to Philadelphia, where Mayor Michael Nutter and other officials from Amtrak and investigators from the NTSB are about to give us another update on Tuesday's deadly train derailment. Mayor Nutter is beginning this press conference with throngs of media there gathered. Let's listen in live coverage for you here on News Channel 8. We believe this will get underway any minute now, and let's listen.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. And we have a series of announcements to make this morning. But first, let me acknowledge the tremendous partnership, relationship, collaboration, and coordination among probably now 10 to 12 different city, state, and federal agencies that have worked with us in a seamless effort to save lives, notify families, work with those families, for some in their darkest moment, do our best to treat all of them with the dignity and respect that they deserve, while also working with those who were injured, some who at times on our side may have been unaccounted for, and ultimately seek to bring a sense of healing and closure to this incredible tragedy that's taking place in our great city, while at the same time acknowledging the near miracle of survival that we experienced with over 200 people here in our city, traveling mostly from Washington, D.C. to New York City. And while passing through the city of Philadelphia, a great tragedy and trauma took place. Let me again thank and recognize for the third day in a row our governor, Governor Tom Wolf, who's been with us and his team with us each and every step along the way. We've had Amtrak Board Chairman Kasia with us, and now, of course, today, for the second day, the CEO of Amtrak, Mr. Joe Boardman. The Federal Railroad Administration, represented by Acting Administrator Sarah Feinberg. The NTSB, the great investigatory organization renowned across the United States of America, if not around the world, for the quality of their work, and their board member, Robert Zumwalt, and the Vice Chair of the NTSB, Vice Chairwoman Denzar. The Philadelphia Fire Department, under the great leadership of Commissioner Derek Sawyer, Philadelphia Police Department, under the incredible leadership of Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey. Our Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Everett Gillison. Our Deputy Mayor for Administration and Coordination, and the Managing Director, Rich Negrin. Our City Representative and Director of Communications, Desiree Peterkin-Bell. And the nationally recognized, the Director of Emergency Management, Sam Phillips, and our Director of Public Safety, Mike Resnick. This team, city, state, and federal partners, working in collaboration and coordination, made what could have been an even greater tragedy a life-saving miracle here in our city. And so I want to thank all of them and express appreciation for their work, their cooperation, and their support. State Senator Tina Tartaglione is with us today, but has consistently expressed her concern for the families. City Councilman Bobby Heenan, whose district we stand, communicated with on a regular basis. Councilman Nielsen was here the other day, and our City Council President. We had numerous members of Congress. Our two U.S. Senators, Casey and Toomey, Congressman Bob Brady and Brendan Boyle, and visitors from outside of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, members of Congress from both parties, to see not only the tragedy, but to inform their work in the Congress for issues of safety and infrastructure support with regard to Amtrak. This has been a massive effort. It's been painful. As we've already reported, there were 7 deceased individuals confirmed. I'm going to ask Fire Commissioner Derek Sawyer to give an update from work of the fire department and the police department this morning at the site. Commissioner Sawyer.
Good afternoon. This morning around 0800 8 o'clock this morning, we received a call to bring back our dog, our cadaver dog. So we worked in conjunction with a dog from PA Task Force and the police department to go out and do another search of that first car that had a large amount of wreckage. The dog hit on a couple of spots, and we were able to find one other passenger in the wreckage. We utilized our hydraulic tools to open up the train a little bit more so that we can reach the person, and we're able to extricate that person and have them transported to the medical examiner's office. Once again, this was a great coordinated effort. The members of our department, the men and women of our department, did a great job throughout this whole event. We continue to have an engine and a medic unit on scene just to make sure that everything is done safely as we finish this investigation and going through the wreckage. Once again, a great partnership with the police department, fire department, EMS units of getting this last person out.
Chief, so just clarifying.
We're not done. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Governor Wolf.
Thank you.
We'll let you know.
I want to. This was such a tragic occurrence, and I am so sorry. And on behalf of everyone in Pennsylvania, I want to express my condolences and sympathy to the families, certainly to the victims. But I also want to say that as a Pennsylvanian, I am so proud of the way this was handled by folks here in Philadelphia. As the mayor said, as the commissioner said, this is an example of cooperation, collaboration. We have worked together to work through this tragedy, and I can't say enough about the heroism of the first responders who came to this site right after the accident, risked their lives to save as many people as they possibly could. So as a Pennsylvanian, I just want to express my pride and my thanks to the mayor and his team for doing such a tremendous job in such a terrible, terrible tragedy. So, Mayor, thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you. Mr. Boardman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, Governor, Senator. What a team Philadelphia has with us at Amtrak. Amtrak's heartbroken for what happened here. The men and women of Amtrak accept their responsibility seriously. We know that we have a team here that work together to help us, to help the families, to be sensitive, to understand what needed to be done, and we've done that. 28 years ago was the last time there was a derailment on the Northeast Corridor. 28 years. And 300 million people have ridden Amtrak since then. No derailment, no loss of life. Today I'm committing to meeting the requirement of positive train control. That will happen on the Northeast Corridor by the end of this year. Mayor, Governor, team, thank you on behalf of Amtrak.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Yes. Joe Boardman, CEO of Amtrak.
Spell board out loud.
Chief.
Boardman.
Chief Sullivan.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Chief Inspector Joe Sullivan, Philadelphia Police, Homeland Security, Counterterrorism. I'd just like to say that I've been a police officer for 32 years, and this was a catastrophic event. My deepest sympathy for those that were lost and seriously injured. I'm very proud of the response by the Philadelphia Police Department that night. It was a cataclysmic emergency, but the actions of the Philadelphia Police that night, what I observed when I arrived shortly after the incident, and the manner in which the Philadelphia Police joined together with the Philadelphia Fire Department and worked as a team to rescue the injured in a miraculously short period of time, I can tell you that I'm extremely proud of. I'm very grateful to our Office of Emergency Management for the support that they have given both of our departments. I'm also very grateful to Amtrak, specifically the Amtrak police. They arrived on location and integrated together with us immediately, which has allowed us to bring this matter to the conclusion that we now have, and we'll continue to work together cooperatively until everything is returned back to normal. Philadelphia Police Department has an ongoing active investigation, criminal investigation into this matter, and we'll continue to work together with Amtrak and the District Attorney's Office here in Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Sam Phillips.
Good afternoon, Sam Phillips. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Philadelphia, and I just want to summarize a lot of things that you've heard here this afternoon. This does not just come together. The way we respond to these things is really the product of years of planning, coordination, training, and exercising. We have tremendous relationships in public safety, but also across the board. You know, we rely heavily on our utilities when events like this happen. We partner with public works agencies, all of the lighting that you see out here, all of the things that you don't think about that are outside of police and fire all have to come together, and that's really a testament to this city. We will continue to have a presence here and support Amtrak. We're also supporting the families that experienced this tragedy at the Family Assistance Center, and we're going to do that until we're told that we're no longer needed, and we're here for the long haul with this one. And then finally, we can always learn from these, and so it's our responsibility as a city and as an Office of Emergency Management to make sure that what went really smoothly this time continues to go smoothly next time, and that any kind of glitches we experience, we fix for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers. Let me give you one additional piece of information. Fire Commissioner Sawyer explained to you this morning that we did recover the remains of one individual this morning. Those remains were taken to the medical examiner's office, as is our protocol. The remains have been identified as a person who was on that train. And so, if I can take you back to just 2 days ago. At the time, we believed, based on all information available at that time, that there were approximately 243 individuals on Amtrak train number 188. With the recovery and the identification this morning, as this news conference was taking place, I just received that final confirmation. We believe that we have now accounted for all 243 individuals that we believe were on Amtrak train number 188 from Tuesday night. All of the individuals that we believe that we were looking for or were trying to identify have all now been accounted for. Unfortunately, again, we must now report that we have confirmed 8 deceased from this horrible tragedy. 8 deceased from this horrible tragedy, but all individuals that we had any reason to believe were on that train have now been accounted for, and we know their whereabouts completely. Let me finish. As Fire Commissioner Sawyer indicated, as Chief Inspector Sullivan indicated, and as Sam Phillips indicated, we will maintain a support role with Amtrak, provide any assistance to the NTSB in their investigatory process, and should any other instances occur at the site, certainly the Philadelphia Fire Department, Police Department, EMS personnel, and Office of Emergency Management stand ready to provide assistance to these 2 agencies who, in essence, now have the major responsibility at this location. NTSB will conduct their investigation. I believe the Federal Railway Administration conducts a simultaneous investigation for their purposes. Amtrak is in the process of removing all of the train cars and repairing the significant damage to the railroad infrastructure. And we will maintain a support role in that regard. With that in mind, and to the extent that there are questions that I can provide answers to, I will. If there are questions that I cannot provide answers to, I think you all know by now that I will not. The gentleman asked a question with regard to the person who was recovered. I think you have also experienced over these past few days, we have not released any information with regard to individuals recovered. That is not within our protocol. The medical examiner has the remains of those individuals. Notification must be made out of respect, of course, to the families, and we do not, as a city government, release names out of respect to the family. Should they end up somehow in the public realm, or if family members make their own announcement, you will then have that information. But I will not release any information with regard to any of the now confirmed 8 deceased. Gentleman in front.
Andrew Stipp from WNBC in New York. A question for the Amtrak CEO, if that's possible.
Let me hear the question.
The question is, he just made a pledge to install positive train control by the end of the year. The federal government had already asked him to do that. So the question is, why had it not been installed before?
Well, certainly Mr. Boardman can explain that. But it is certainly my understanding that that type of work is in progress. I don't believe anyone standing here, and sure none of you have ever experienced, that if you're trying to implement system change or even safety changes, that all of them get implemented instantly. It is my understanding that this PTC, these PTC devices or controls, they've already been in the process of installing them, and that in fact some of those devices are already in place in parts of the Northeast Corridor and possibly either here in Philadelphia or parts of Philadelphia or near Philadelphia. But these systems take time, and again, I'll let the CEO explain, but that's the information that I have.
Mr. Boardman?
Mr. Boardman? Senator, I'm sorry.
So the answer, your question, the answer is that we started installing positive train control in the 90s. Positive train control exists now between New Haven and Boston, and it operates. In 2008, I was a Federal Railroad Administrator, and I supported and put in the law the requirement for this December of 15 positive train control. It's the same year I became CEO of Amtrak. We began immediately, and we've spent $111 million getting ready for positive train control. We had to change a lot of things on the corridor to make it work, and we're very close to being able to cut it in. We need some testing done on interference with the 220 megahertz radios that we're dealing with, but we will complete this by the end of the year. I believe we will probably be the only railroad in the United States and in the Western Hemisphere that'll have positive train control, and I think that has not been reported well, frankly. We have delivered a leadership role in positive train control in the United States.
So hold on for 1 second, gang. Hold on for 1 second, okay? So, a couple little ground rules here. For our purposes, we are not going to spend the morning talking, or the afternoon, talking about positive train control. I want to take us back to what brought us here. There was a tragedy, 8 lives lost, 1 family just notified with regard to remains, and they are going through that process. If you want to have a policy conversation or a finger-pointing contest, generally this is not going to be the place for that. If you want to be in touch with Mr. Boardman and Amtrak folks and talk about positive train control and a schedule and where is it and where does it not exist, I'm going to ask you to do that post this press conference and this information that we're sharing with you today. We have people who died. We have people who were injured. There is a process. So for all of those questions, I'm going to respectfully ask you to direct them to Amtrak post this press conference, and I'm sure Mr. Boardman and his team can give you as much information as you would like. Yes, ma'am.
Brittany from SouthJerseyTimeMonday.com. Was the train running late on schedule when it was heading toward its destination?
It is my understanding from talking with Amtrak personnel last night that train number 188 out of Washington, D.C., which is the 710 train, which I've taken personally many times, was on time out of Washington, D.C., was also on time out of the city of Philadelphia.
Mayor,
yes.
New York 1, why call the engineer reckless?
Let me try to address that. You know, I don't know a whole lot about New York City, great town. You know, we have a certain way of speaking here in Philadelphia, and for all of you, I think we also need to try to put a period at the end of the sentence on all of this back and forth. I have tremendous respect for the NTSB. I have tremendous respect for Mr. Sumwalt, who we worked together in a previous tragedy here in the city of Philadelphia. In the heat of the moment, for a guy like myself who cares passionately about people, who has experienced loss in our city, who wants to get some answers and get to the bottom of what's going on, having just learned that the individual, based on the earlier press conference by the NTSB, who had determined from the event recorders that the individual was traveling at 106 miles an hour on an S-curve that is rated for 50 miles an hour, I was expressive in my language. But I don't think that any common sense, rational person would think that it was okay to travel at that level of speed, knowing that there was a pretty significant restriction on how fast you could go through that turn. So I was being expressive. I know the people in New York don't speak in an expressive fashion, but we do here in Philadelphia. I expressed an opinion as the mayor and as a citizen. Mr. Zumwalt, is a professional board member from one of the most respected agencies in the United States of America, and in no way, shape, or form should my comments be taken as to be judgmental about their process or what might happen or anything else. I often speak from the heart, which at times is terrifying to the folks that I work with and the press office. But we need to end that. I've watched a lot of the ping pong. It is meaningless. It is literally meaningless in the whole scheme of things. The NTSB has a job to do. They have an investigation to take on. But I don't think I said anything that any person watching television yesterday after that announcement was not thinking here in Philadelphia, if not across the United States of America. So we need to stop talking about that one, and let's move ourselves on. Yes, sir.
Craig Boswell, CBS News. I'm curious, how many are remaining in the hospital? How many still hospitalized at this point? Is the city, are you visiting with them in the hospital, talking with them? Is there contact with them?
We have 23 individuals at Temple University, and we can provide some information later on today, the breakdown at a number of the other hospitals. I plan to be in touch with as many of those folks as possible. Some have had treatment and moved on, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's certainly more important for them to get the treatment that they need and pay attention to their doctors and medical personnel than for me to be in their room in the way and interfering with their care. I think all of those folks know how passionately I care about them, and I'll do my best to be in touch with them. But it's quite more important for them to be talking to their doctor than to be talking to me. All the way in the back. I'm gonna come right back to you. Was that you in the brown? Okay. Can they identify and yeah. I think the first part of your question is, at the moment, no, we're not. I think from a process standpoint, I think you don't get to a level of quote-unquote criminal investigation until you know you have fully something to investigate. What we got was a significant piece of information yesterday in terms of speed and S-curves and mile per hour limits and those kinds of things, but I don't know from a process standpoint that we are at the point of kind of those next second and third steps. You have to have probable cause to go in that particular direction. All of that is about information gathering and a series of various interviews that will take place with people who are on the train. Let me go over here. Okay, so the bulk of the tail end of your questions I will not be able to answer because I cannot answer those questions, and they're inappropriate and would interfere with what we're trying to do. I do appreciate that there has been some level of confusion with regard to what did the engineer say or not say. I think I can definitively say the following. The engineer was injured. Again, I want to remind you, the engineer, of course, was in the first train car, the engine component. That car, we believe, actually tumbled over and over and over numerous times, and the engineer survived. Taken out of the vehicle, went to a hospital, received treatment, was interviewed by the police department, and I believe it was a pretty short interview in which he apparently indicated that he did not want to be interviewed. That's all we have. And he doesn't have to be interviewed if he doesn't want to at this particular stage. That's kind of how the system works. In terms of all the other questions that you asked, I'm not in a position to answer. I'm not in a position to answer that question at this time. John?
Question for the railroad. Mr. Zumwalt this morning said that they thought it would be finished, the NTSB, that it would be finished with their on-site investigation today. That would release the property back to the railroad. What would be the earliest time?
43 and 18.
To reestablish service on the Northeast Corridor?
So, John, I'm really, really good. I only heard the tail end of your question because I was talking.
Question for the railroad. Mr. Zumwalt has said that today that he thought it would be wrapped up, that their people would be wrapped up as far as on-site investigation. They have continuing investigation off-site, but not on-site.
Right.
The question to the railroad would be, when would be the earliest you could restore service on the northeast corridor.
Okay, let me hold for that. So let me update the information that I gave you slightly in error. There are 43 people in hospitals. 43 people. So I want to correct what I said earlier. 43 people in hospitals, 18 of whom are at Temple University. And we will try to figure out, if you need further information, we'll try to figure out where everyone else is. That's a train question, so it sounds like Mr. Boardman.
We expect really that we're going to be with limited service at least by Monday, maybe full service Monday. We're really looking at full service for Tuesday. We've got some cap poles we have to reinstall. It takes some concrete some time to set, and that's kind of where we are in terms of timing.
Last question.
Mr. Mayor, or maybe for you or Commissioner Sawyer, without being grim, are you able to say were all of the victims located in the front car, or were there some in other parts of the demolition?
Well, one, I'm not going to be grim, but second, unfortunately, I'm not really going to answer that question. That's all a part of the larger investigation, and quite honestly, we don't need that information just floating around. So, thank you all very, very much.
Where the body was found, at what time it was found, just to be clear. Where and what time, and what was used to find that?
I cannot and I will not.
Mr. Mayor?
I gave the last question warning, but this is the real last question.
Would there be the potential
So,
of criminal charges?
I didn't hear the first part of your question.
If negligence is found, is there the possibility of criminal charges?
The premise of your question doesn't allow me to answer it. That is the huge if. That is way down the line, and I cannot address that kind of issue.
All right.
I didn't rule it in, didn't rule it out. I can't answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter holding a very informative press conference on many fronts, most notably the headline coming out of this, tragically an 8th victim, the death toll now at 8 after Tuesday's derailment near Philadelphia. Mayor Nutter saying what could have been an even greater tragedy was prevented by the life-saving efforts of first responders there. Also saying now all individuals on that train believed to have been accounted for, 243 souls in total. He said 43 remain in hospitals, many of them at Temple University Hospital, where doctors say all of those patients are expected to recover. But again, tragically, an 8th individual who has not been identified. The mayor saying that he will not and does not publicly identify victims in cases like this, that they've notified the family, not even referring to that individual by gender. We can tell you, as we reported earlier this hour, that a Baltimore businessman is still one of those who was unaccounted for as early as just an hour ago, Bob Gildersleeve Jr., but that has not been confirmed to be that 8th victim. We are seeking more details on that identity, but we can tell you that the mayor and the fire commissioner revealed at this press conference that at 8 a.m. they got a call calling in cadaver dogs to search the first car with a large amount of wreckage there at the scene, and there that victim was retrieved, the body sent to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. Also, we just learned from Amtrak that they are hoping to reinstate limited service on the Northeast Corridor in this affected area by Monday, possibly full service on Monday, more likely by Tuesday. So that is the very latest there out of Philadelphia. Here, live coverage on News Channel 8. We're going to take a break, come back with the local forecast for you right after this.